I cut ties with my sister after she slept with my husband and told me not to interfere in their business. Years later, they begged me to care for their son while she recovered from an accident. I'm 36, divorced for 3 years now. My ex-husband Caleb, 36, cheated on me with my sister Alice, 32, while we were married, and that's what destroyed our relationship. Caleb and I met through friends at a party when we were 25 and started dating then. We were together for 3 years, after which he proposed and we got married. We were married for about 5 years, and only then did I find out he was cheating on me with my sister. Caleb and Alice first met when I invited him home for dinner. This happened about 6 or 7 months after we started dating. By that point, we were serious about each other and decided to introduce each other to our families. I had already met his family, specifically his parents, since he has no siblings. My family is quite large. Our older brother Eric is 40, and he's the only one I still talk to in the family. When I first brought Caleb home for dinner, everyone liked him, but he made the biggest impression on Alice. They realized they had a lot in common favorite television shows, books, and even food preferences. They immediately clicked. I thought it was cute and couldn't have imagined how things would turn out in the future. They became good friends, and I was happy that Caleb got along so well with my family. I also had a good relationship with Alice back then, as we were closer in age than to Chris. Alice and I sometimes went on double dates with our partners and had a good time. She had casual relationships back then and brought a new guy to every date. She even joked that it was a shame Caleb didn't have a brother, or she'd date him. Sometimes she'd say Caleb was the perfect man and how lucky I was, but I always took it as a compliment, never giving it much thought. I was sure she was just praising Caleb. I saw no hint in it because I trusted and loved her too much. It never crossed my mind that she might actually have a crush on him. When Caleb proposed and we got married, no one was happier than Alice. What's more, she was the maid of honor at our wedding, so you can imagine how painful that was. After 5 years of marriage, I found out they'd been sleeping together behind my back. And if you're wondering if there were any signs, no, nothing indicated it. I trusted Alice more than anyone in the world, and Caleb too. In my mind, they simply couldn't hurt me. I was sure of it. Over 5 years, Caleb and I had very calm and stable relationships. There were, of course, a couple of minor disagreements. For example, he wanted children, but I wasn't ready yet, or he wanted me to work less, which was impossible because I earned more than him, and our lifestyle directly depended on my income. He felt I was too career-focused and wanted me to be more relaxed. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't explain to him that we both needed to work hard to live stably. For context, I'm an investment banker, and it's a very demanding job. Caleb works in marketing. He's good at it, but not as devoted as I am to my work. I truly love my job because it helps me achieve my dreams. So why should I work less? As for why I didn't want children, the answer is very simple. I wasn't mentally or emotionally ready to become a mother, and I believe it's better not to do something at all than to do it poorly, especially when it comes to parenting. I was afraid of having a child and then regretting it, and I was very clear about this from the start of our relationship. But for some reason, he assumed I'd change my mind right after the wedding. These two topics were the main sources of conflict between us. Most of our serious fights happened over this. Like all couples, we had minor arguments, but we always worked through them. Even when we had big fights, we'd make up in the end because we were confident in our relationship. Or at least, I thought so. Now I realize we probably were never on the same page. But the point is, despite the fights, we always made up. He constantly showed me love, even a week before I found out about the affair, and I never had any reason to doubt his loyalty. Caleb never gave me cause. However, a week after our 5th wedding anniversary, I found out he was cheating on me with Alice. Even on our anniversary, he was so sweet to me at the party, acting like I was his whole world. But everything changed when I found out the truth. A couple of days after the anniversary, I was rummaging through my closet looking for something, but I couldn't find it. Then I decided to look in Caleb's closet. I don't remember what exactly I was looking for, but I think I had an important event in a few days and was trying to find a specific blazer. I thought maybe I'd accidentally hung it in Caleb's closet. While searching, I came across a bag he'd hidden at the very back of the closet. Out of curiosity, I took it out and started looking inside. To my horror, I discovered it was stuffed with women's clothes. After going through several items, I realized I'd seen these clothes before. It was Alice's clothing. I couldn't understand what was happening. I was in complete shock and confusion. I had no logical explanation. Then I decided to check his phone. For the first time ever, because up until then, I'd trusted him completely, just as he trusted me. We never gave each other reason to be suspicious, but at that moment, I felt I had to. Even if I just asked him about the clothes, he'd have time to make up an excuse. So I went straight for it. I knew his phone password and went into his private messages. Of course, the chat with Alice looked innocent at first, but when I scrolled up, I saw how they talked. Friends don't talk like that. They were flirting, having intimate conversations, and arranging meetups. This explained all his late work nights. I realized their affair had likely been going on for a couple of months. And as luck would have it, Alice came over for lunch that day, so they were both at my house at the same time. I confronted them face to face, showed them the messages and the bag of clothes I had found in Caleb's closet, and demanded an explanation. Instead of apologizing or even trying to deny it, they simply stated it was none of my business and I shouldn't interfere in their relationship. I was shocked by that answer. If my husband is cheating on me with my own sister, that is definitely my business. I lost my temper and yelled at both of them. But instead of reacting, they just acted like nothing major had happened. Caleb even had the audacity to tell me that since I wouldn't give him a child and didn't spend enough time with him, which is especially hypocritical, considering neither he nor I were willing to give up the expensive lifestyle, by the way, provided he had to look elsewhere, and he had great chemistry with Alice. Alice added that I should be grateful he stayed within the family and didn't cheat with someone else, because then I'd be even more ashamed. They declared they had no intention of ending their affair, and now that I knew everything, there was no point in hiding it anymore. They'd kept it secret before just to avoid drama, waiting for Alice's promotion so she could move away, and Caleb would follow her. But now she didn't mind telling everything and just ending things. It was disgusting, and I still don't know how I endured it all. After the truth came out, there wasn't much to discuss. Those two felt no guilt whatsoever, and I certainly wasn't going to forgive them. I decided to file for divorce. When I told my parents everything, they immediately stopped speaking to Alice, and Eric also cut all ties with her. The whole family completely turned their backs on her, and oddly, no one suffered from it. A couple of weeks later, Alice moved to Pennsylvania, which is a 9-hour drive from here. And 3 months later, when the divorce was finalized, Caleb followed her. He didn't contest the divorce or file any counterclaims, leaving everything to me. I think he decided that since he was with Alice now, who got a promotion and a bigger salary, he didn't need to worry about money, my assets, or potential divorce payments anymore. He just wanted to get it over with quickly, and I'm glad it worked out that way. It allowed me to close that chapter quickly. Since then, neither I nor anyone else in our family has had contact with her. We don't know where she is or what she's doing, and we don't care. My friends who are still friends with her or follow her know not to talk about her with me. In short, I have no idea what's going on in her life. It's been 3 years, but I'm still trying to recover. They completely broke me. However, a few days ago, it all resurfaced when Caleb contacted me again. He called from an unknown number, and I answered without much thought. As soon as I heard his voice, I knew I should have hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. His voice sounded desperate and agitated, and he got straight to the point. Caleb called to ask for my help. Very bold, considering we hadn't spoken in 3 years and parted on bad terms, to put it mildly. He could have at least apologized first, but no, he went straight to the point. He said Alice had been in a car accident a few weeks ago and couldn't move. Both her legs are broken and her arms are bruised from the accident. They also have a 2-year-old son who needs care. He explained he'd already tried asking friends for help, but everyone was busy and didn't want to take on such a big responsibility. He couldn't handle it alone because he needed to work more now that Alice was bedridden long-term and needed care. Caring for a toddler and Alice simultaneously was too much for him. They even thought about hiring a full-time caregiver, but they couldn't afford it, considering the expensive area they lived in. So they turned to family. First, they called my parents, but they said they were too old, though they claimed they would have helped if they were younger. My former in-laws weren't an option either. My father-in-law died a year ago, and my mother-in-law lives in Canada with her sister. They also called Eric, but he said he wanted nothing to do with them. They didn't consider other relatives close enough to trust with their son's care, especially in this situation. So, in desperation, Caleb literally begged me to help him. After all these years of holding in my pain and resentment, I finally had my moment to respond. After he told me everything, I simply said I couldn't help because it wasn't my business. Then I hung up and blocked his number without even getting into details. Eric thinks I did the right thing, but my parents disagree. In their opinion, 3 years have passed, and I should have moved on, especially considering what Alice is going through now. I don't understand what they're talking about. They think I'm being stubborn for refusing to help. I think it's absurd that they expect this from me after everything Caleb and Alice did to me. I feel sorry for the child, truly, but it's not my problem. My parents insist I'm a stubborn, selfish person and that I should have at least thought it over before refusing. A few days have passed, and now they're starting to pressure me, making me unsure if I did the right thing. Hi. First of all, thank you all so much for the comments on my post. Thanks for taking the time to write something. It meant a lot to me. Now about my decision. I haven't changed my mind. I'm still staying out of their business, just like they once asked me to. Let my parents think whatever they want about me. I don't care. They have no right to decide whether I should let go of the situation or not. I was the one hurt, and only I get to decide how to feel about it. They can't dictate what I do. Only I decide. Yes, I feel sorry for their son. But again, it's not my child and not my problem. If my parents are so concerned, they can take responsibility and care for their grandson themselves. They make excuses about their age. They're only in their early 60s. They live normal lives, and nothing bad would happen if they had to watch their grandson for a couple of months. I'm sure they could easily help, but just don't want to. It's more convenient for them to dump it on me. When I told my parents I hadn't changed my mind, they declared they were cutting ties with me too. They called me selfish and said they couldn't believe I'd do this, especially since Alice was suffering so much. I don't understand what's so unbelievable about it. These people betrayed me once already. It's very simple. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I haven't discussed all this with Eric yet, but I'm sure he'll be on my side, as always. He's a bit busy at work lately. He just took on a new project, so it'll be a few days before we can talk properly. But for now, I'm perfectly comfortable with my decision. I don't know what will happen to Alice, Caleb, and their son. I sincerely hope they find a solution for the child's sake, but that's not my concern. So, before we move on to the next update, I suggest you write in the comments right now whether the heroine of this story is doing the right thing at this moment, or if she should do things differently and take in the child. How would you handle this situation? Perhaps you believe that family actually comes first. And now for the update. Update 2. Hello everyone. It's been a week and a half since Caleb tried contacting me. I blocked him then, and he hasn't bothered me since. But I heard from Eric that Caleb is now persistently trying to reach him. Alice is even texting him. He, however, ignores all their messages and leaves them unread. A few days ago, I talked to Eric, and he said he'd also decided to stop communicating with our parents because they're acting extremely unreasonably and selfishly. Ironically, that's exactly what they accuse me of. Well, they get what they deserve. Honestly, now that they've lost Eric, they still have a chance to reconcile with Alice. But I don't think they'll take care of her child. It's unlikely because my parents are the type who say they love their family but wouldn't lift a finger for them. I've seen this with Eric's kids. I won't go into details, but a couple of years ago, his eldest son broke his wrist, falling at the playground. He was about 4 then. Eric was having business trouble at the time and asked our parents to lend him some money to hire a physical therapist after the cast came off. They flatly refused, said they were struggling and had to save for retirement, and that money wasn't just given away. Eric respected that and didn't bring it up again to avoid seeming pushy, but I think they behaved terribly. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they're not helping their grandson now. I didn't expect anything else. I just hope that when Eric and Alice eventually refuse to let them near their kids, our parents will understand. If they believe their children aren't entitled to ask for their help, then they aren't entitled to demand access to their grandchildren whenever they feel like it. But that's just my opinion. As much as I hate Alice, I still hope everything works out for them all in the end. Update 3. This update will be quite long. Almost 2 months have passed since I learned Alice was in an accident. She and Caleb haven't contacted me directly, but I keep in touch with Eric, and he keeps me updated. I told him myself that I don't mind if he texts Alice and responds to her messages because, honestly, I felt uneasy myself. Yes, I dislike Alice. That's true, and I can't stand Caleb. But I'm not heartless enough to wish them harm. Their 2-year-old son certainly isn't to blame for all the crap they pulled in the past, so I asked Eric to stay in touch and help if needed. Yes, they're awful people, but that doesn't mean I should sink to their level. I already got my moral satisfaction by refusing to help them. That's enough for me. So I supported the idea of Eric communicating with them, at least so I could be at peace knowing my nephew is okay. That's really all that matters to me. 2 weeks ago, Eric finally contacted them and asked how they were doing. Alice said everything was bad. They'd had to put their son in daycare because there was no other way. But it's hitting their budget hard since the area they live in is expensive, and commuting for hours back and forth every day isn't feasible. Caleb has to work, and Alice can't do anything by herself now. Plus, they've started falling seriously behind on rent, which risked eviction. That hasn't happened yet, only because the landlady felt sorry for Alice's condition and gave them a couple of months grace period. But they'll have to pay later, and she has no idea where to get that kind of money. She asked our parents for help, but they refused again, saying they needed to save for the future. I understand they might be afraid of future medical expenses or something, but that doesn't mean we'd never pay them back. My siblings and I were never like that. I don't understand why our parents are always so suspicious and weird about money when it comes to their own children, as if we're thieves or scammers. But this time, when our parents refused to help, Alice snapped and declared that this time she was cutting ties with them and would never speak to them again. And no matter how I feel about Caleb and Alice, I think they did the right thing. They're toxic, sure, but our parents aren't any better. It's amazing how normal people like me and Eric even came out of such a family. Anyway, now our parents definitely won't have access to their grandkids for several more years, and they'll only have themselves to blame. Essentially, they now have no access to their own children either. I don't talk to them. Eric has also stopped communicating, and now Alice too. They're left alone, and I can't say they don't deserve it. I definitely don't feel sorry for them. Now, about Alice and Caleb. Eric and I discussed the situation, and I told him I wouldn't object if he decided to help them. My conscience wouldn't let me stand in his way. Sorry, but I personally can't do this. I'm going to stay out of it, but I won't stop others if they want to help. Eric also said he still hadn't spoken to Alice because what she did to me was too vile, but now it's hard for him to stay angry at her. No matter what, she's in a very tough spot. And as her older brother, he can't just sit back and watch his nephew suffer. He knows Alice's son is having a hard time emotionally with everything happening. We decided Eric would send them money monthly until they get back on their feet. And honestly, I'm glad he's doing it, because I know when Eric himself was struggling, no one stood up for him. Our parents did absolutely nothing. And while Alice and I tried to help financially, we weren't in great shape ourselves. Unlike our parents, who are quite comfortable. I don't want to sound like someone who thinks parents owe their children everything, but they really could have helped but didn't. While Alice and I aren't philanthropists, we still tried. So now, perhaps it's fair for Eric to repay her in kind and support her despite what she did to me. My main concern has always been my nephew. Now that that's settled, I can finally stop thinking about this whole situation. Honestly, I just don't want anything more to do with Alice or Caleb. I'm sincerely sorry something so terrible happened to Alice, but now I want to live peacefully moving forward. I think this was the closure I was missing. Even during the divorce, I didn't feel like it was truly over, but now I do. From this point on, I plan to focus on my work and my own life, improve myself, and stop worrying about others. I don't have to deal with toxic people anymore. I'm not talking to my parents either, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm free, and I have a lot to live for, so I'll be okay. Thank you all so much for following my story and supporting me. So, please write in the comments what you think about this whole story. In my book, the author here showed themselves to be practically a saint. Basically, I think she did everything right. Honestly, Alice surprised me a bit because while she told me with that caliber guy not to interfere in my relationship, she nevertheless turned out not to be such a bad person after all. It turns out none of them are really such bad people. Well, why things turned out like this with that caliber guy is a mystery, of course. On one hand, and on the other hand, that's life, and it's all inevitable. Anyway, I look forward to your thoughts on the story in the comments. Thanks for watching this video to the end. Check out our other videos, which you'll see right here. And good luck to you.